everybody. Welcome to another edition of Raising the Volume. My name is Marcus Amaker. I'm the Poet Laureate of Charleston, artist in residence at the Gilliard Center. More importantly, I am a dad. And I'm here with a friend of mine, KJ Kearney, who I've known since probably 1842. It feels like it's been a long time, man. And I'm really, really happy for you and all the stuff that's happening for you right now.
Thank you.
So let's just kind of go into that, like what's going on right now, and then we can do the Netflix documentary style and go back in time. Yeah. But yeah, so tell me about Black Food Fridays.
Yeah, Black Food Fridays is an initiative I started in April of last year, like right at the beginning of COVID. And my idea was to ensure that anytime there's a tragedy, right, whether it's a natural disaster or anything, Black businesses or businesses owned by people of color are going to be disproportionately more negatively affected. And so, you know, I thought in my little space in North Charleston, what can I do to amplify the voices of these restaurants that have not been, they don't really get a lot of press as it is. And as COVID, you know, we really didn't know what it was and how it was going to affect people. I thought the least I can do is highlight those Black-owned restaurants that were open during COVID trying to survive. Yeah. And little did I know it would blow up and mushroom into what it's, you know, become. But that really was the origin, is just trying to save as many of these small Black restaurants as possible by letting people know that they are available and open for service.
Yeah. And so that is amazing. And then I felt like every time I went to your page and refreshed, you got another like 1,000 followers, and now you're up to how many?
25,000.
So how does Instagram. So how does that feel? Like, is that a lot of pressure on you, or does it make you more anxious to be on your phone? I mean, how does that feel?
No, that's a really good question, Marcus. To answer that shortly, no, I don't feel any more pressure because, you know, as we were saying before we started recording, I'm not interested in working hard. You know, I'm interested in working smart. So people think I'm on the internet all day long, but I use systems. You know, I have apps that I can use where maybe like the first hour of my day, I might schedule 6 posts, you know, throughout the week. So it looks like I'm on the internet all the time, but I'm not. And truthfully, that's not my goal. My goal is not to be on the internet all the time. My goal is to be building relationships, is to be getting information that's going to be useful to other people. Yeah. So I don't feel any pressure because I know what my friend Mamie calls it, my true north. So I know what I'm doing this for. I know who I'm doing it for. I know the kind of emotional responses I'm trying to get, the qualitative goals I'm trying to reach. So as long as those things stay at the forefront, there's no pressure, you know? I mean, people come with their opinions and suggestions of what I should be doing or should not be doing, and that's fine. They're welcome to have their opinions, but I don't have any internal pressure because I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It's benefiting the people who I want to benefit, and I'm bringing along different people, the people who I wanted to bring along. So as long as those things are clicking, I'm cool.
Yeah, that's cool, because I think that, I guess from the outside perspective, when you look at an account that has a lot of followers and interaction, there is this perception that this person has to be online all the time, and it's cool to know that there's systems in place. You can plan out things and make it work, because I don't think a lot of people would realize that.
And maybe for some people, they are on the internet all the time. You know, for me, I'm blessed because a lot of my content is user-generated content. So it's people who understand what this platform is about. They rock with it and they send me stuff. They're like, yo, you should check out this restaurant. This lady's making cakes in, you know, Walla Walla, Washington. This dude is making tacos in Texas, and they send me the information. So for me, a lot of my job is just the curation of a lot of this information that gets flooded into me. And I'm picking out which ones I want to showcase and why I want to showcase them, and, you know, different reasons like that. But I'm fortunate that a lot of people, like I said, rock with what we're trying to do, and they send me stuff, and I'm just cherry picking the best and highlighting those restaurants or those bars or whoever it may be.
Yeah, that's cool. So before we get into the fact that you're about to become even a bigger star, because you were talking to people in the West Coast and all that stuff, let's go back in the timeline. And I guess what was or how did you get to this point? Because I know like some people might. They always say, oh yeah, this is like a a fresh, voice or something like that. But
yeah.
you've been working on stuff like this for
I
a
mean,
long
and
time.
you've been there pretty much the entire time.
Yeah, for the whole time. Yeah.
I'm fortunate that, let me say this, I first need to give a shout out to my parents because they have supported me in ways that a lot of parents probably wouldn't, you know what I mean? Because I've always been trying new things. When I graduated college in 2005 from the illustrious South Carolina State University, home of the Mighty Bulldogs and Marching 101. And so, I've always been trying stuff, from the Big Mix during Fashion Week to interning with Will and Joseph at Fashion Week to giving away sneakers with JP when he had his sneaker store down here, running for office, working for Hertz. I was in the management trainees program for Hertz Rent-A-Car. Like, I've just done so many different things, and I believe that all of that, everything that I've learned, especially the personal growth stuff, more so than the just busy activity of doing, I think the personal growth has been really what's got me here. So it's been able to, when I say personal growth, is having the wisdom to distill all that I've done into purpose, into meaning, to say, oh, I did all 17 of these different things, and having enough wisdom or understanding to say, okay, well, what does all this mean? And how can I drive purpose from that? And, I think that comes with age and experience, but age, I'm not trying to play myself like I'm 60, but yeah, I think it's all come, through time. So that's what led me here, is just doing a bunch of stuff and then having enough wherewithal to sit down and analyze, what does this mean? So I can continue to drive purpose, or reaching towards that true north, as I said earlier.
I can relate, because I think that we all reach a point in our careers, especially when we're younger or right out of college, where we might take a job or whatever just to take the job, and it's hard to realize. The older you get, you kind of realize why those things are in your life, because when I worked at the paper, I knew that I was doing stuff that felt good, but there was still something missing, And once you reach that point where you're like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I mean, not that I should have a lot to learn, and we all do, but I think that we're reaching that point where it just feels good to do what we're doing. Because I remember, I used to wash cars, and I did all types of stuff too, and now it's like, oh, I can take a couple naps per day now,
exactly. And I think anyone who's
good.
done anything, especially in the creative world, right? Anyone who's done let me rephrase that, especially Black people in the creative world who have reached any level of notoriety or success, they've done all kinds of things, man. If you look at like what Issa Rae used to do, Larry Wilmore, like all these people who I look up to. And I'm like, W. Kamau Bell is somebody who I really look up to. He did all kind of stuff. And so you kind of feel like, oh, this isn't for nothing. Like, this is all going to lead towards something. And the same with you, man. I remember when you were at the Charleston scene, you know, and all that you were doing and trying to accomplish there. And to see you from that position to now, it's like back then we would have never drawn that line to here. No. Right? We would have never drawn that line to here, but it was definitely a part of why you're here today. And so I salute that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and and times are hard. I mean, I remember when I left the paper, how hard it was from a financial standpoint, and talking to my parents about that was an interesting. It's being like, just keep the faith. Like I'm gonna be all right. But it definitely was hard, and I'm sure there were times like that for you. Like, what was sort of your low point as far as that goes?
Oh God, I can tell you for sure. So I was working at MUSC. I was working in the art building, which is their. They do a lot of catheter work, So I was supplying the catheters.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was doing that at one point in my life. And I remember, I applied for food stamps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
And not on some, I wasn't even ashamed to do so. I needed to eat.
Yeah.
So, I applied for food stamps. And I got a phone call back that said I had been rejected for food stamps. I'm like, what? I work in, essentially office supply work at a hospital. I don't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
What do you mean I don't qualify for food stamps? And the lady was like, yeah, I know you don't make that much, but you make like this much, like, and I mean like $400 too much to qualify for food stamps.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I see the problem. We can fix this. I'm like, all right, great, because I need to eat.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
I'm
saying?
hungry.
And she was like, you forgot to list your dependents. And I said, what?
Uh-oh.
And she was like, yeah, you forgot to list your dependents. I'm like, I don't have dependents.
Yeah.
And you could hear her on the other line being like, oh, I just made a huge irrational assumption about this black man.
Yeah.
That, oh, obviously you have kids out here, so just claim your kids so you can get food stamps, right?
Oh my gosh.
Right? But then like that was a real seminal moment in my life because number one, it was like a slap in the face of how people think of you as a black man. Like obviously you have kids out here. Just put your kids on here. And then number two, I literally had a panic attack. That was that was like the first time I've ever had a panic attack in my life. I'm not a worrier, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this idea that I would not be able to feed myself.
Yeah.
And if I just had a bunch of babies that I could feed myself, like what is the world trying to tell me? What is the universe trying to tell me? Like my life is in shambles, bro. Like I can't feed myself. I don't know what's going on. So anyway, that was probably one of the lowest moments in my life.
Yeah.
And again, you know, going back to what I said earlier, I have to give praise to my parents because it was like, bro, you can't live like this, man.
Yeah.
Like I had sold everything in my apartment, you know, like I just had like a TV.
Yeah.
That's it. Like everything else I'd either sold or bartered or whatever. My dad came over. He was like, man, you can't, this is a trap house, bro. Like you look like you selling drugs out of here.
Yeah.
Come home. You know what I'm saying? Like my dad was like, come back home.
That's cool.
And I stayed way longer than I anticipated. But because of their support, I was able to, you know, run for office, take a job with an environmental, statewide, you know, environmental policy nonprofit organization. Just all these things I was able to do because my parents were like, we got you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like when I get on, they're not going to have to worry. As long as I got it, they're going to have it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
it's
that
beautiful.
was the lowest point, but it also, you know, brought me closer to my parents in terms of like me no longer looking at them as, I won't say a nuisance, but you know, your parents are your parents, right? Like sometimes they give you advice that you don't really want or you're not ready to receive.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was in such a troubled space that if it was not for my parents, bro, like I'm not lying. I'm not exaggerating. I don't talk about this, but like I have no clue where I would be. I don't know if I'd be alive.
Wow.
You know, without my parents, bro. Like so that's why we know when we sat down, I was like, how is it being a dad? Because I understand, especially now that I work in education, like I understand how important it is to have parents who are there, who can support and who can be there, you know? I think sometimes people think of support like they're hampering their children, you know? And maybe in some cases it is, but that wasn't my case. That wasn't my experience. Like, you know what I'm saying? So salute to you and every other parent out here who is really trying to take care of their children and be a good support system for their children because, you know, especially working in elementary schools, you can tell the kids, they ain't got it, man. You know?
And that's been so interesting for me to watch because I do so many virtual experiences right now with students. And you can definitely tell, and it's interesting to me because a lot of the schools that I'm in or that I am in front of are black and brown schools, and that's how Charleston is. And you can tell that a lot of these kids just, I mean, they aren't gonna go that far because the way that the system is set up, you know, you can have your mic off, you can have your screen off, and I'm like, are they even listening to me? And things like that. So I just wonder how these kids are being affected by everything that's happening right now. But yeah, it's so important. And I'll just speak on this like briefly, but my low point, my parents were there as well because this was right after I left the paper. I was having a lot of financial trouble, and I had just bought a house too. So it wasn't the smartest thing that you know that I've ever done. And I remember going to some place to get assistance to pay my bills and stuff, and it was right. I think it was that same week when I went there, like on a Monday, and I think on Thursday I got my first big client, you know, and that covered everything. So it was like right up on that point.
Yeah.
But but my parents were there. If nothing came through, they would have helped me.
Yeah.
And that's such an important thing. And as being a parent, one of the first things I thought of was sort of like my mental health is so important for her, for my daughter, because if I'm not showing up for her, or if I'm stressed out or whatever, it's definitely going to be passed down.
100%.
Okay, I love this. This is great. But so let's go fast forward to now, and you're having to manage a lot of your I guess your brand, and I've never done that, like talking to agents and stuff like that. What has that experience been like?
It's
lawyers and
it's very interesting because, Marcus, I'm glad that it's happening when it's happening. Let me say that first and foremost. If I were to get on, when I was in my early 20s, I would have been like an Hollywood story for real, bro. Like I'd have been wild,
That's a trip.
Exactly. So I'm glad it's happening now because, number one, I've had people tell me my whole life, like, you're so dope, you're so talented, you're going to do great, you're going to go far. But because of where we live at, the things I wanted to do, there weren't people here who necessarily knew how to get me to that next level. Right. So I was getting gassed a lot. Like, you're so great, you're so talented. But I'm like, all right, well, put me on then. Like, help me out. Like, I don't know what I'm not doing. How come I can't make a living off of this yet? How come I can't, create a life for myself off of this if I'm so talented, if I'm so good at writing or public speaking or whatever it is? And so now, I'm taking these meetings and vetting entertainment lawyers and, talking to a talent agency and all this other stuff. It's great, but it is also like, it's two parts, Marcus. The first part is relief. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know how else to put this. It's like, I'm not crazy. This whole time, I felt like I could be doing something more than what was around me. You know what I mean? Like, besides Darius Rucker or an athlete, like what black dude from Charleston did you see, really big on the stage or, whatever like that? Like, you really didn't see a whole lot of that. Outside of, politics or, something like that. But I never fancied myself as like a traditional business person. So I didn't model my life after them. I've always thought of myself as a creative. So I'm like, who's the creative? The closest one would be like Charlemagne, but he's from Moncks Corner. You know what I mean? So it's not even the same thing. So like the first thing is just feeling like I'm not crazy. Like, I knew I could do this. I knew that this was a possibility. And so for there to be companies that are interested and people who are interested because they see me not only as a talent, but as an opportunity for them to make money, right? Because we're all in this to make a living. It's like, whew, okay, I'm not crazy. I knew I could do this. And then the second part is a bit of impatience. Like, there's a part of me that's like thankful it didn't happen when I was younger. But now that it's happening now, it's like, hurry up. Let's get to the good stuff, right? Let's get to the contracts and the money and the TV show and the speaking engagement, whatever it's going to be. Like, let's hurry up and get there. I've waited long enough. I've put my time in. I've done my due diligence. Let's make this thing happen. So relief and impatience.
Wow. Yeah. So what in your mind would be that you are there, like you've made it, that patience is done. You're like, oh, sweet. Like, is it?
Okay. So, I've never had a job ever where I've made more than $35,000 in my entire life.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've never had that happen. So the first line of success would be, ooh, this money's mine, right? Like, that's the first basic level. Being able to take care of myself and not have to worry about being a burden. Thank God for my parents and my brother and sister and whoever else has helped me over the, ex-girlfriends or whatever. Like, thank God for all of them who have helped me. But I would love to be I want to be the person where they come to me now and they're like, yo, we're going through. Can you help? That would be another level of success.
That's awesome.
Because I've been blessed and I've been benefited. I want to turn around and be able to do that for my brother, right? Who might, want a career change, at 35 years old, he might be like, I want to do this now. And I want to be able to be like, all right, go for it. I got you. Go for it. You know what I'm saying? That would be my next level of success. And then the third level of success would be, I know what it feels like to be talented and not have resources, right? And then I would know how it feels to have resources and being able to bless other people.
Yeah.
And my third level is become the guy that KJ needed at 22 years old.
Okay.
Become the guy who can see a person in the crowd or be like, oh, she got talent.
Yeah.
We can do something with that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I want to become that guy. So those are my 3 levels of success.
That is awesome.
A little bit of money, enough money to take care of the people who took care of me. And then the third level is enough resources to be able to pick out the Marcus Amaker, you know, from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, I see him because I've been that dude. I'm going to help that dude get to wherever he needs to go or she needs to go.
And that's a wonderful thing, especially for the Black community, because we are always lauded for our talents and stuff like that. You know, they give us 5 minutes on the stage,
Right,
and we're always a highlight of the thing. But yeah, to have somebody to go to be like, okay, what do I do with this? Because you know, I know a lot of people, not just me, but they had to kind of figure it out as we go. And you know, one of my mentors and a brother is Quentin Baxter, you know, who won a Grammy for Ranky Tanky. And just him mentioning publishing to me, you know, years ago, I'm like, what? No, I can just put my poems out on YouTube and everything is right. And he's like, no, somebody can steal that and blah, blah, blah. So I just think that that's important for a lot of people out there, because there's so many talented, whether it's a poet or rapper or somebody, you know, making beats or drawing or whatever. And that talent can get you far, but you have to reach that point where the business part is really important. So,
talent's not enough, man.
Yeah.
You could throw a rock and find a talented person. And talent can mean anything.
Yeah.
Singer, dancer, painter, sculptor, poet, whatever the case may be. We could go out, you know, on Calhoun Street and find 10 people who are talented in certain things.
Yeah.
But the difference between the people who have been able to make a career out of it and the people who are just doing it part-time is the people, a lot of times in my experience, the people who are able to make a career of it, they have the institutional knowledge that allows them to monetize themselves, that allows them to protect their craft, right? That allows them to scale their craft. And so those are the things that are missing. And like I said, that's my last level of success. When I can understand all those portions and be able to drop that wisdom on somebody and be like, I got you, you know, can't make any promises, but I can get you in front of these people. Yeah. We can present these resources. That's when I'll feel like I really made it. And
it's relationships too. I always have mentioned, I'm not the best poet in town. But I really work a lot. I really work hard on my relationships and stuff like that. Yeah, and you know, and trying to put people on. There was a poet who I love who said, "What is it? To get a gig, give a gig." You know, or some. You know, so that has always been a thing in my mind. I'm like, pass on what you have and share in this wealth, because there is a lot out there for us, and particularly for Black folk. It's really important for us to be able to, like, you know, control the narrative. Because I mean, in my old age now, I'm just like, when I was coming up, there weren't a lot of resources that I was exposed to that really protected my voice, protected who I am. It was always like, okay, if you get signed by a publisher, like, you're going to have to conform to this, or you know, you're going to be the only one. You know, so that puts an added pressure on you to be the Black voice and things like that. And that's what I love about what I think what's happening with you is that you are controlling the narrative. I mean, this is your voice. You know, it's not like you're working for somebody and doing this. So that is cool. I'm really interested what it's like to work with these national things like the Today Show, like BET, right? I mean, just all of these things that I've known of for years. What is it like just to work with them? Is it easier than you thought, or is it
way easier?
Okay,
it's way easier because you know, my whole life I've been like, how can I get on? How can I get on their pages, on their TV screen, whatever the case may be? I was hustling backwards, you know, and that's the advice that I would have for anybody else. It's like, don't hustle backwards. Don't chase them. Like, perfect your craft, bro. Like, just get really good at what you do. I didn't reach out. I don't have a PR person. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like people were pitching me to these publications. I just picked the thing, became very proficient at it, and then expanded, right? So Instagram was my baby from April until January, first week of January.
Yeah.
And then I added TikTok, right? And it was TikTok, the thing I did not want to do. It was TikTok that got me in front of to the Today Show. And what I didn't realize at the time is once the Today Show talks about you, then everybody else starts paying attention.
That is it. Yeah, that's
right.
where
the entertainment lawyers and the agencies and the literary agents, that's when they started coming out the woodwork.
Beautiful.
Is when the Today Show kind of gave me that cosign. But I would have never known how to get in touch with Ruth.
Yeah.
Right? Ruth found me. And so we had a conversation. We liked how the conversation went. And then, she was like, yo, I want to interview you.
Nice.
I was like, all right, cool, let's do that.
Yeah, word.
Like, I'm going to tell the Today Show no.
Yeah, word. I know,
Charleston,
right?
Bro. Like,
yeah, how did they ask? I'm like, you set the time, I'll make it work.
Well, I'll make it work, bro. And
Yeah.
so that was it. So we did the interview.
Yeah.
And then after that interview, because before them, I got interviewed by a publication called Mike.com.
Yeah.
Which I was vaguely familiar with, did not realize how big of a deal they were. So when I got on Mike, then that's when the Today Show reached out. And then after the Today Show reached out, boom.
It was just
it was on like that.
Else.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what happened. Like, I wish I could give credit to a publicist who wrote all these, beautiful pitches, but that's not how it worked for me. It was just me staying true to what I wanted to do, becoming proficient at what I was doing, and the universe, took control.
It happened, yeah. And not to talk bad about publicists because they do a job, but for me it's been the same way. I've never used anybody to get me in front of things. It's just it's always naturally happened. And the way that I've noticed those major voices, like once one gets you, then other people will follow suit.
Yeah.
I'm curious, and this is sort of off topic. What is a guilty pleasure for you? Like something that's not on Instagram, not on TikTok, might be on MySpace, but you know what I mean? Like, what's your...
That's a good question. My guilty pleasure has changed during COVID, right? So what used to be a guilty pleasure was reading books, right?
Yeah.
Like sitting down to take time to read a book used to be a guilty pleasure, but then when COVID came, everybody had time to read books.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really a guilty pleasure anymore, right? It was just a thing that we do.
It's cool to read, yeah.
Tea. Hot tea.
Okay.
Right? Being from Charleston, we know all about sweet tea, right?
Wow,
like being from the South, we know about sweet tea.
Oh, yeah.
Hot tea has become a thing that I've become like super nerdy about.
That's really interesting.
I even bought like this electric kettle, where you can control the temperature to 1 degree of what you want. And like trying green tea at 185 degrees versus 190 degrees.
Yeah.
Steeping it for 3 minutes versus 5 minutes at this, like just doing that kind of stuff.
Wow, so you're that dude. Like
I'm becoming that dude.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
wow,
I'm becoming a tea guy. Like I did not foresee that coming. But like I love it, bro. Like I get teas from Kenyan black tea. That's my favorite.
Okay.
Kenyan black tea. It's strong like coffee.
Tea. Yeah.
And then you can mix it with I like getting local honey. So like Joseph Fields Farms.
Oh yeah.
I get honey from them or Bee City. But now that I'm doing Black Food Fridays, people send me honey, which is also pretty dope.
Sweet. Yeah.
Like that's a guilty pleasure now.
That's really interesting.
Really becoming nerdy about tea.
Okay, that's really interesting. I never would have guessed that.
Exactly.
So so is there sort of any sort of advice that you would have for students? Like, let's say somebody's watching and like, man, I would love to have all these, followers on Instagram for whatever they want. Like, what sort of advice?
The advice that I would give a student is the same advice I've been giving adults lately, because now adults care about what I think, right? So like, create qualitative goals versus quantitative goals. So how I explain that to people is, there was a period of time when I started Black Food Fridays where I was like, as soon as I get to 10,000, right? As soon as I get to 10,000 followers, bro, everything's going to change for me.
Yeah.
And then I got to 10,000 followers. And then nothing changed. I mean, I got the swipe up feature
on
my Instagram stories. But that's it. That's the only thing that changed.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm like, I got myself all hyped up to reach this arbitrary number. And then I reached the number and then like nothing really changed. Like nothing came from it.
That's a good
And
look.
so I don't I don't usually do New Year's resolutions, but I did this year. And my New Year's resolution was to create more qualitative goals, more goals that were rooted not in numbers, but in feeling. Like I want emotional outcomes. So the most honest story I can give you about how that has manifested in my life is, remember I told you I was on TikTok, but I didn't really want to be on it. People were telling me like, yo, you got to get on TikTok. You got to get on TikTok.
Yeah.
So I started my TikTok account in November of 2020. And from November of 2020 until till like January the 5th, I didn't really do much with it. Like I did videos here and there. I get a couple thousand views and I'm like, ooh, that's more views than I get on Instagram. All right, this is cool. But it still didn't I didn't really want to participate in it because I thought in my mind, like I have to dance or, or cut jokes or something.
Yeah.
I'm funny in conversation, but I'm not a comedian.
Yeah.
And then I just decided, going back to what Mamie said, find your true north. So I was like, if I'm going to be on TikTok, I'm going to create content that I want to see, whether it goes with the algorithm or not. Like, I'm not worried about numbers. I'm not worried about follower counts.
Yeah.
What would KJ want to see if he was on TikTok?
Yeah.
And so I made the qualitative goal of I want every video to have the same emotional outcome. I want somebody to watch my video and go, huh.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. That was my new goal.
I've done that to all of your videos. I'm
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I wanted. Once I got rid of the numbers and it was just like, that's what I want. The first video I made in that regard was my Hennessy video.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Where I explained the history between black people in America and this French cognac, right? Why do black people care about Hennessy so much? There is historical reasons why. Like Hennessy has been rocking with black people in America way before it was fashionable to do so,
Yeah.
And so even with that being said, Hennessy is still not my favorite cognac. And I said so in the video, but 50 seconds of that video was all history. The last 10 was like a little joke about, how Hennessy's not my favorite. It took off, bro.
Yeah.
Like it did like 500,000 views or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
That's a trip. Yeah.
And then so every video I was like, ooh, this qualitative joint might be the move. So I was like, I would write an idea and I'd be like, is someone going to look at this video and be like, huh, I didn't know that. Nope. Cancel it. Right? Like, cancel it. Oh, maybe I can explain this. Would somebody go, huh, I didn't know that? Yes, they would. Or at least I think they would. I'll make the video.
That's beautiful.
Qualitative goals.
Yeah.
Right? Which are rooted in A, your purpose, your true north, and B, a specific emotional outcome. So if I'm a poet, there are many ways to write poems. And I think poetry is the best example to use in terms of what kind of emotional response do you want to get from your audience.
Yeah.
So as a poet, if I were a poet and I had this qualitative goals mindset, I would say, when I'm finished reading this poem or reciting this poem, what is the feeling that I want people to have? Once I can identify that feeling, then you work backwards. Because I know what the end goal is. The end goal is I want someone crying.
Yeah.
But not just crying. I want them to cry because they're remembering how good it felt to be loved by someone that's no longer here. Like whatever as specific as possible.
Yeah.
That's what I would go for and then work backwards.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice for any person who's trying to be creative, especially a kid.
Yeah.
Don't let these numbers fool you, bro. They change the numbers all the time.
Yeah.
Now it's 10,000 on Instagram. 2 years from now, they'll be like, well, if you don't have 25,000, you don't count.
Yeah.
Right? Like they'll always move the goalposts. But if you know your qualitative goal and you can be very specific about what that is, the followers will come.
Yeah. And it's the thing I realized, and I'm, I was naive to this, but how many people purchase followers too? Like, I mean, it's such like an interesting goal, because I think that's what a lot of people will stop at. They'll, look at an account, and if it doesn't have this amount of followers, they don't think that it's important in their mind.
Right.
So people actually like purchase followers. So yeah, it's more about the content.
Right.
Yeah. I hope that they take away the numbers at some point, but that would be an interesting thing. But
they would never do that.
Yeah, no.
Never do that.
Yeah.
Then why would anybody advertise?
Well, I mean, like likes, like you can't see, how many likes somebody has on,
True.
on
True.
Instagram. But anyway, okay. So I think we should wrap this up, thank you. How can people follow you and all that?
The internet is my baby, so
Word.
follow me at Black Food Fridays. That's an S on the end of Fridays.
Cool.
On Instagram and TikTok, obviously, blackfoodfridays.com. And I would love for y'all to visit my website so you can sign up for the mailing list, because I send out cool stuff through the mailing list first.
It's beautiful. All right. Thank you all for watching and listening to another edition of Raising the Volume. Follow all of his stuff, and we will see you all next time.
I get scared sometimes.
But as I always say,
It's okay to be afraid
as long as you face the fear.
and keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 70 years. BlueCross BlueShield of South Carolina.